Today we're going to remake Birds of a Feather by Billie Eilish. This is a great song to use to show you how a lot of the free synths and Logic work. And Finneas has mixed Billie's vocals in a really interesting way. So we'll get onto that later on in the video. But let's start creating a software instrument, and let's change this synth to one of the best synths in Logic, the retro synth. Let's make oscillator 1 a square wave, and we'll want a good bit of vibrato in that. Let's turn the mix all the way to oscillator 1 and see how that sounds. That's a start. Let's make oscillator 2 a triangle wave. Let's just listen to oscillator 2, and we definitely need to detune the second oscillator. Somewhere around 20 cents should do. Let's mix them in with oscillator 1 being a bit louder. Let's turn on the glide, but the glide is pretty fast. Let's change flanger to chorus and turn that on. Chorus really thickens out the synth. It's a super useful tool. Let's mess around with our filter envelope, make the attack a little bit longer, and bring down the cutoff a little bit. Not an awful starting point, let's go with that. And bring our BPM down to 105. Let's record it in. Sounds a little bit off right now, but that's because we need some buses. Let's turn on bus 4. How does it sound with even that stock reverb on it? Add an audio effects, go to Isotope, Vinyl, which is a free plugin. Turn off all the dust. The warp can be fine there. We'll bring down the wear. Yeah, even just a little bit of warp there can help make it sound a little bit more lo-fi, unless those 2 octaves of notes blend in together a little bit better. And I've one last idea for a bus. Let's make bus 5. And on this bus 5, let's go to X for Records, OTT, which is another free plugin. This can really help with a bit of distortion, a bit of that excitement. Still too much high end in it, I think. Yeah, so using this filter here really helps with just a low pass. We'll fine tune this a little bit later as we go along when we have a bit more context with the other sounds. But we're 50% of the way there with the OTT, Final Crackle, and the 2 automatic reverb buses that were already on the track. So I'd highly recommend getting to know that retro synth super well and how you can combine 2 oscillators together to get the exact synth sound you want. Create a new software instrument, and let's change the synth sound to Alchemy. We use the retro synth for more lead synth sounds, but Alchemy is great for those lovely polyphonic sounds. Let's try for something pop and smooth. Glorious Gliss. Ooh, that sounds really nice. We'll just bring down the cutoff so there's not as much high end. And let's go for a slightly longer attack so it really grows into it. That's a cool sound. Let's make an 8-bar loop and we'll record these chords. D major. Bum, 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 bum. B minor. I've played a 7th in there, I'm not sure. And then up to E minor. I've put a 7th in there as well. And then to A. Shift backslash, shorten. And then we have lovely legato notes. Let's throw those 2 reverbs on it and see how it sounds. Yeah, the attack's very long, might shorten it just a tiny bit. Go 50%. Nice, very good. And just make sure that's fully 8 bars. I'm really happy with how that sounds. Alchemy is my favorite synth for just trying to find luscious pads straight away. And it's not just folk heads who love texture, but there is one thing that's even better than texture. Command D that track, Option, and click down those chords or that MIDI region. Let's open up Alchemy again by clicking on it. And let's try Anthem pad. This texture pad has a much shorter attack to it, which is just what we need. But it gets a bit too big if you let it hold for the full chord. So Command A to select those MIDI notes, and let's just shorten them. Maybe even just a crotchet or a quarter note. Whew, it's nice, but maybe down the octave is a little bit thicker. Shorten it a tiny bit. Nice. The Anthem pad needs to be Control B to bounce it in place. And let's move it earlier so that it grows and hits on time. So much nicer, so it properly grows into the beat. Could even lengthen the reverb a little bit if you wanted to. And depending on your taste, you might actually bring down the warp a little bit. On the retro synth, that is. Love this third chord. this 7th in there. It's an A. It's lovely. That is a pretty good start. I'm happy with that. It's not bang on the money just quite yet, but as we add more sounds to it, we'll get more context and it will make it easier for us to mix. And straight away, that's a great insight into how powerful these free software synths are in Logic. And sure, we could have a cool Juno or Prophet up here and they might sound marginally better, but for the majority of listeners, they're not going to notice any difference. I'm a big fan of Logic. I don't know if you can tell. Create a new software instrument. In our library, let's go for electronic drum kit, analog circuits. That should do the trick for now. We can always change it later if we need to. And that kick and snare should go like... Kick, kick, snare, kick, kick, snare. Wow, that was very out of time. I was a beat out for all of that. Lovely. Just what you want. Bring down the velocities of those snares. That'll work for now. I might Option C and color our drums yellow for the minute. Command D to duplicate that track. Y to open up the library. Let's go for big room. I think that's what we need. That snare sound should work, I think. For the sake of time, let's Option and click down our track there. We'll get rid of all the kicks and we'll turn up the velocity in those snares. Okay, a lot more punch, much better. And the key for the kick and snare in this track is creating a new bus. Bus 93, our favorite bus. And on this very important bus, we need to create from our dynamics a compressor. Let's go for the studio FET. Bring down the threshold. We really want to squeeze it. Bring up the ratio a bit for now. Super fast attack and release. We can always boost the input gain as well to make sure it's getting slammed. That is slammed. Let's turn the distortion on to hard. Get that limiter on and bring it down a little bit. And if we jump on the big room snare, add that bus 93 to it as well. It's really clear on the snare. You can really hear the tail of the snare just gets boosted up so much in volume. So you can really hear the natural room reverb that's on the snare. But that's not quite good enough. We need some saturation on this sidechain compressor as well. Really get it gritty. You can use any saturator you have. Let's say overdrive. So let's listen without the sidechain compression. We'll have to volume match here a little bit. And then when we put it on, you're hearing we're getting such a thicker signal from our kick and snare. And remember, you're balancing in the bus volume along with the volume of the actual track. And that's what it means to have them in parallel. You have the two volumes and you're mixing them up together. And here's a really helpful slide from Dr. Richard Malloy from DKIT. This slide shows a blue waveform, which is a distorted or overcompressed version of the yellow waveform. You can see it has much more sustain than the original waveform, but it has lost punch from the transients. So if we want the transients of the original waveform and the sustain of the distorted waveform, like we did with the kick and snare in Birds of a Feather, we can use parallel compression and blend the two waveforms together, which we can see here in the green waveform. And one last really important drum sound, create an audio track. Go to our loops up here in the top right, or click O. Search for TAMBOUR for tambourine. This Finn straight 16ths, I go for a lot. Let's drag it in, create a new stereo track. It's not quite perfect, but what we're going to do is shorten it, even 16ths of it. Too much. Let's go for the first 1/8 of that sound. Add in a tiny, 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 tiny amount of that room reverb. Not too bad, and that was pretty quick. Maybe blue for the pads and purple for the lead synth. Tambourines are always great to just throw in a mix, and it gives a lot of vibe straight away. Just definitely be careful about turning it up too much. Super piercing high frequencies come through with the tambourine. Grab the guitar, create a new guitar or bass track, and the guitar has repeated notes. I recorded it a few times there to try and get a good take all together. Command D, pan that one to the left, and try one more time. A little bit better that time. Command D, and let's try one more time. Let's pan this out right. Ooh, that took all of my concentration. And if you're recording these at home, you can go ahead and edit these to make sure they line up perfectly. The more in time they are, the better they'll sound. Unless they're bang, bang on time the whole way through, they might sound like the same take. And you don't quite want that. To flatten that first one, let's click the A. Safest way is to export the active comp to a new track. And then we have that comp there as one track. let's shorten that middle guy here. And let's just move him into time a bit more. Just make sure they're all faded in and out. Much better. So with these guitars, you definitely want them in time enough so they sound like they're playing in unison. But if you move them too bang in time, it loses that authentic, real human feel. So there's always a balance to be found. Select those 3 tracks, Shift Command G, and we have an electric guitar group. And we can throw some of that bus reverb on those guitars to make them sit in the same room. And you can hear they're quite thick there, so we should probably EQ out some of the low mids so they don't really get in the way, because they're not an important thing in the mix. It's really the higher frequencies with the percussive nature of it that is really important. With the EQ off and then on. Even bring this guy down a bit. So many crackles. Lovely. So they sound a bit tinny on their own, but that doesn't matter. It's all about the context. When you put the electric guitar back in with the pads, it's just adding that lovely rhythmic nature. Create a new audio track. Let's grab our acoustic guitar. Got it. And follow along the chords. Let's see what we got out of that. I recorded it a few times so we can click on the 4, export active take to a new track. We could even pan that a little bit to the left, so around 30. I don't know which other takes were good. Was take 1 okay? Let's export that take to a track. Nice. Ooh. So that second one's a bit out of time, so let's just grab him and put him into time. Fade over those guys. And we definitely want some reverb on these tracks. Let's just go for the automatic bus 3 and 4. We can put more thought into our reverb when we're mixing the track at the end. These guitars are meant to be percussive, just like the electric guitars. Nice and bright with the reverb there. Do I have one more take that would sound nice? Let's start with take 4 and see what sounds awful. That should do okay. So let's leave that one, and we'll leave that one down the center. We'll turn it down as well. And actually, if we click those 3 tracks, Shift Command G, to make our acoustic guitar group. And really, we should be putting the effects on this group. Move the EQ onto that channel. Mute buses 3 and 4 on those 2 individual guitar groups. And then we're going to put bus 3 and 4 on the group of those acoustic guitars. Export active comp. And then we have 3 mixes there. A center, right, and left. That acoustic guitar group in particular could definitely do with some extra long reverb and maybe thicker reverb to ease out some of the bad playing. But I think it should do for now. Yeah. If you don't have a guitar you can't play, I'd suggest going to software instrument. And my go-to is always the Tweed picked synth you can find here in the library. It's a pretty good free alternative. Although sometimes I find myself kind of EQing out some of the harsher frequencies in it, but it will definitely work. On this new track we just created, let's go for bass, Liverpool bass. Liverpool bass always does the trick. Let's record in. Repeat it. Repeated notes, follow the root chord. So B, A is D to B. Then E. And then finishing up with A. Oh, that was super horrendous. But thankfully it's MIDI information so we can just fix it. Command A, Q to quantize. That's every 16th note. We're definitely missing a few. Option click across to duplicate any missed note. Wow, I have so many missed notes. So you can hear the electric guitar and the Liverpool bass working together, both being in time together. You could also record the acoustic guitar doing this rhythmic percussive playing as well if you wanted, and pan them around the head. It would make it extra thick. So even if you don't give it a go in this remake, you could definitely give it a go in your own music. What do onions and music production have in common? Layers.
You know, not everybody like onions.
Let's Command D to create a new track, and let's change the sampler to ES1 mono. Synth bass. Let's go for the first one, deep bass. Chord in. D, held note. B, 2, 3. Following the chords. E. Down to A. Beautiful. So it's just following the root notes of the chords. Q to put those perfectly in time, and Shift / so they're all legato, leading perfectly into one another. Grab the 2 basses and make them maybe brown, some deep colors. So all our rhythmic elements together. Lower down those basses. Apart from the crackles on the electric guitar, whatever interference it was picking up, I'm pretty happy with that. And now onto the most important track of them all. Create a new audio track. Need to duplicate this across one more time. And we're coming in input 2. Low octave vocal, number 1. And I don't know what I'm crying for. I don't think I could love you more. And note I'm not singing the S at the end of I's. I only want the lead vocal to do that. If you have too many doubles of S's or T's, they layer up and get way too loud. Let's go to audio effects, pitch, and let's go for pitch correction. We'll change chromatic to a major key, and the key is D. Bring the response down a little bit, around 70 or 80 should be okay, just to get the vocals roughly in tune before we do a bit more mixing. And I don't know what I'm crying for. Bit wobbly, but it'll do for now. Command D, let's pan it fully right for the minute. And this is going to be super high. Might not be long, but baby, it might just work. Very, very high at the top of my range. Using a lot of aspiratory onset, which is like very breathy on the start of the vocal. Lots of breath into the song or into the words. It's got pitch correction on it as well. So let's leave that there. Command D. Let's try the other side. I'll love you till the day that I die. Till the day that I die. Not horrendous, but not great either. Of course, we can shift click to select all the vocals and shift command G to make a vox group. With these, I need to take out some of our low mids so they don't get in the way of anything. Let's have a listen. I'll love you till the day that I die. They definitely need some bus reverb, without a doubt. And I don't know what I'm crying for. Sounds like so much vibrato, especially on that left vocal. So if you don't want to pitch correct, we could also double click on that audio track, click on flex pitch here, turn on flex, change from slicing to flex pitch. And then if we scroll down, we'll be able to see all our notes here. And we can tune these as we go along if we see fit. Double click to get the strength 100% quantized. And then you can go to the middle one at the bottom to bring down the vibrato. If you reduce the vibrato by too much, it'll sound super robotic. So there's a balance to be made here. See that swoop? Not good singing. Don't try and do that. Keep it nice and steady. And I don't know what I'm crying for. Not too bad. That sounds okay. It is free and it's amazing, but little issues will arise now and then and you'll hear little artifacts come about. So if that happens, usually what I do, I'll bounce that track, and then on the sections it's having weird artifacts, I might redo it then on another track. So you have 2 audio tracks of one vocal and try and balance them out, if that makes sense. So we've done multiple vocals. This time around I didn't pan hard right and left. We went 30 right, 30 left, 18, 18, and then 2 down the middle at different octaves. Now, one of the most important things about this vocal is another bus. Let's go 14 this time. Audio effects, delay. Let's go for tape delay. And it's a quarter note delay. I actually couldn't believe how loud this delay is in the track. It's so loud, but it works so well. I'm a big fan. Let's turn up the feedback a little bit. And then especially on the lead vocal, it's really loud. I don't think I could love you more. I think that works. I really love when you have melodic sequences like that you have in the retro synth or the lead synth, but it keeps repeating the same pattern. So in this case, D, A, D, C sharp, A, C sharp, and just keeps repeating. But as you put different chords underneath it, the feeling of those notes totally changes. That's something that's used in musical theater, songwriting all the time. It's a really powerful tool. You should definitely try it. All right, let's sing through the full thing. Hard to be rude not to. Here we go. Any thoughts on the new setup? Super vibrant back there.